This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Let's fast forward a little bit. We know that eventually the Richard Scrushy thing is going to become a thing. And I just want to add context to what we're talking about there. Health South has been writing checks, and you essentially have a line of credit and you can get a quote unquote draw against it. And we've broken all that down in our prior episodes. So if any of that's confusing, go check the archives. But eventually the money train from Birmingham comes to a stop. And in a weird way, the Tennessee Titans help save TNA. Explain.
Yeah, like I just said, had I known the importance, I would have really hugged Frank Wycheck and Zach Piller and Fred Miller. But we did a show, and we'll get the dates, but it was going into, so that would have been, kind of around the 17th to the 24th of August. No, anyway, let's just say mid-August for we'll get that later. But when I got the call from Health South that not only were they not funding last night's show, we're not going to fund the prior week's show. The line of credit was over. Health South was in big trouble with with the federal government and all that. I said, okay, I'm going to take this massive knockout blow on the chin. And I went to all of my vendors, you name it, production. I mean, whoever was owed money to, that was the accounts payable in the 30 days, whatever that whole list was, the people that I could go meet with. I didn't want to do this by phone call. I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to go meet with him. So I went around. And one of those meetings was with Trifecta Entertainment, Dixie Carter and Andy Barton. And so I called them and said, hey, I need to meet with you urgent and to give you some information. So I went in and had the conversation and told Dixie and Andy, not only are we in financial trouble from last night's show or 2 days ago show, whatever it may be, but the following week. So we are giving me 30 days and I'm going to get us some new funding. But if you'll have a little patience with me, and everybody that I went and had the conversation, Conrad, this is where you talk about fate or divine intervention or
all of the above. Yeah.
Just all that. But I was upfront about it and said, we lost our funding. But I had immediately started, from Don King. I started, we'll say turning over rocks from financials. And I had that conversation with Dixie. And Dixie said, do you have any financial materials? And I said, matter of fact, we're in the process of putting that together. And she said, if you can get those to me, I think I might be able to help out. Okay. I had no idea who Panda was, who Bob Carter was. Dixie Carter and Andy Barton ran Trifecta Entertainment, and they were the PR agent for TNA Entertainment. That was the relationship. And so I said, sure. And I said, yeah, you mind sharing? What do you think? She went into it. My father, they're in the energy business, but they're always looking for outside investments. And I'd like to have this. I'd like to have this. I'm going out to the ranch with my parents this weekend, Labor Day weekend, 2002. I'm going out there and I'd like to be able to share something. So I said, sure. So had some financials, whatever it may be.
Time out. Let me add context. Again, this is mid-July when the whole Tennessee Titans thing happened.
Yes.
And Dixie's going to present this financial package the weekend of Monday, September 2nd. So less than 2 months later.
Yeah. About 6 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. And so I was going to go anyway. They went out, had the weekend, Labor Day weekend. They do it every year around the holidays. Dixie and Serge and her family at this time, no kids, but they would fly out. and spend holidays with Bob and Janice and Todd and his family, the Carter family. And so they went out and had that weekend, and I got a call and said, do you think you could be in Dallas this week? And this is the week following Labor Day. And I'm like, sure. Yeah. If we're looking for financing, absolutely. So me and my father and Bob Ryder, we put together the financials, and because I had with my finance guys, they had, experience and they could put that together. And then we were going to put together basically a PR pack, if you will, of our 2-month existence. And obviously at the very top of this, you've got Toby Keith, and you got NASCAR, and you got Hermie Sadler, and you got the Municipal Auditorium. Oh, and you've got this thing, an actual newspaper clipping, because we had Toby material. We had all the different things outside the box of wrestling that we had put together. And when you think about, in 8 weeks, we did check some boxes.
Toby Keith, Hermie Sadler, Sterling Marlin. Yeah. Big stuff.
Athletes. Anyway, so put all that together. And I remember me and Bob taking the rental car to a Kinko's out in Grapevine, Texas, by DFW Airport, to sort of put all this together, images and all this kind of stuff. So flew out there and got all the materials ready. Went in Dallas and met with Bob and his team, and obviously Dixie was there, and started the meeting and had the conversation and the nuts and bolts and the financing. And this happened on episode 1, and we're professional wrestling. Again, Bob Carter didn't have any real
concept.
reference. Yeah. It was WWE. It was comparables. What's WWE? Okay, here's a publicly traded company. Wow, look at these revenues. Look at this. It was 2002 WWE financials. They'd been public, whatever it may be, 2 years. So a couple of years. And that's the circles, Panda Energy International, massive energy company, really, really big in their space. But, they weren't in the entertainment world. So we gave them the pitch. And as a part of that pitch was the physical copy of the Tennessean article of the Titans kicking ass. And as we go through the meeting, and after I spoke and my father spoke, and I'm sure Bob, don't remember all the specifics, but after we generally gave our presentation, obviously you sort of open up to the give and take of, their attorneys were asking questions, and Dixie was, given context and given her thoughts, and everybody, it became an open discussion. But Bob Carter, being the chairman, sat at the end of the table. He just sort of sat back in his chair, and I noticed him reading this article and flipping through it. And then he would take a break from it and sort of listen in. And then when he'd say something, tell me a little bit more about this Titans deal. Tell me a little bit more about this Titans deal. So I'd go into it, and I don't want to rehash it, but Conrad, it's a lot of what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, it really wasn't scripted. Oh, come on, Jeff. I mean, it was walking him through sort of the David Copperfield, if you will. How did we make this magic potion? Well, Bob, we really didn't. This just happened. And then he'd go back to reading the article, and then there was pictures and the thought process. And look, he's from Dallas, so he's well aware that the Houstons and the Houston ownership moved to Memphis and the city of Houston. And look, Bob's a Texan, so he's a Cowboy and the Houston Texans, and he understood all the business and the mechanics, and certainly well aware of the NFL. But how it all sort of went down in those conversations, and we would continue talking about, I don't know, Toby Keith, or because he's an Oklahoma guy and Okies and Texans don't like each other. But no, having the wrestling conversation and just the business. But Bob kept referencing this Titans article, and he was very enamored by it. And toward the end of the meeting, he got up, took the newspaper, put it under his arm, and he got up and left.
Okay? With the newspaper.
Well, I found out later he shared that with his few folks when he left. But as we're sitting there, and the conversation goes from, I don't know, 1 hour to 2 hour to maybe 3 hours. And I know that we have our flight booked that afternoon, and Dixie did as well, and all that. And then next thing you know, Bob sticks his head in and calls me out in the hall, and there was somebody else anyway, but the specifics went down with, hey, we really like this. We've still got to work through some things with lawyers and all this, but you don't mind if we send you guys back on the private lane?
No, sir. That'll be fine. Thank you.
So going back to your early conversation, how long do you think it took me to answer? Wait, you want us to fly private? Like today? Like we don't have to go back to DFW? But no, that is, and I loved how when you were laying this out, Conrad, how the Titan saved TNA, you knew where you were going with this because you had heard just the bits and pieces of the story. But
yeah,
that all sort of worked in. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget getting on that plane, thinking to myself, I will be damned. I can't wait to tell Frank Wycheck this story.
Well, it's so fascinating. And I'll never forget when you know, I've had fun getting to know you and hang out and just sort of pick your brain. And I take you to our favorite meeting 3 here in Huntsville, and you're devouring a whole fried chicken. And I'm just picking your brain saying, hey, what about when? And then I asked, how did that whole Bob Carter thing come to be? And in between chicken bites, you're like, oh, that Titans deal, that did it. And I'm like, Titans deal? Yeah, remember when I hit Frank Wycheck with the chair? Yeah, it was in the paper, and he was all about it. Hang on. What now? But I do want to add some context. And again, I'm not trying to villainize the Carters at all. And you and I are going to talk a lot about them moving forward, I'm sure, as we sort of talk about their time and your time with TNA. But I don't think they get enough credit for all the good they did for not just wrestling fans, but folks in the industry. Yes, a lot of guys were given opportunities that they wouldn't have had otherwise without them. And I think it's unfortunate that it's become an LOL TNA type thing. Anytime Impact does anything, there's a bunch of boo birds out there, but it's a bunch of hardworking guys and gals chasing their wrestling dream. And for a lot of years, the Carters funded those dreams out of their own pocket. And I think they should be commended for that. Instead, wrestling fans online sometimes villainize it. And it's I almost read it like, do you hate wrestling? Because if there's a billionaire who's willing to write checks for wrestling, why shouldn't we just appreciate that gives the people we say we care about and we're fans of more opportunity to provide for their family, but also it gives us more variety and more options to choose from. All right. Now that I got my preamble out of the way, Bob Carter became a billionaire quietly behind the scenes. He was in almost a utility line of work. I mean, he's not in the quote unquote showbiz at all. And this may have been an opportunity for him to do something fun, brush up against something, and use some of that mountain of cash that he's amassed over the years. And the idea that he could be involved with something that brushed up against the NFL and made the front page of the paper and was on Sports Center, that was intriguing to him because that was seemingly something that money couldn't buy. And again, I've never met Mr. Carter, but I understand, hey man, rich dudes, they want a yacht. Guess what they'll go do today? Just buy one. Hey man, my wife wants to go to Paris for supper. Well, let's load the jet. Let's go. But if we wanted to brush up against the NFL and make the front page of the paper, that's not something you can just go do and write a check for. But he saw an opportunity here and he jumped at it. Is my read wrong?
No. And you talk about, it's funny how you said the TNA LOL, and that'll come in later podcasts when it became that. I think I've got because I've had multiple discussions with different folks of when actually the worm really turned, that it came much later. But Bob, and here's something, Conrad, I don't think, Bob didn't make his big money till after he turned 50 years of age.
Oh, wow.
When you think about the risk versus reward, he's a Texas Wildcatter. He don't mind taking risks. And you just sort of really put it eloquently about, okay, I have made a fortune building power plants.
Yes.
That's what he is.
Yes.
Panda Energy International literally built power plants, not just in the United States, all over the globe.
Yeah.
Germany, China. I mean, just that's what he did, where land was plenty and you had to have wind and rain. I mean, rivers and water and all this kind of stuff. Bob is brilliant, and he saw that opportunity. And the comparable, as we say in real estate, as you say in real estate, of the WWE, there was the only one. That's the only publicly traded company that, Jeff, is there space? Like, certainly. I mean, look at AEW right now. I mean, there's space in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Bob looked at that and, okay, we're going to be smart about this. But I mean, people used to say, oh man, Bob Carter's fun. You know how many times, not just him, many billionaires get into business and write off risk that they take. That's how they became, in a lot of ways, super wealthy. They're not afraid to take a risk. Now it's calculated, and you got to think it through, and you got to know when to pull the plug. Just all the things that go into business.
Also, too, it's worth mentioning, and I'm not saying that this is what it is, but this happens. You got this business over here. We'll call it business A, that's making billions of dollars a year, and you're going to have to write a massive check for taxes. Bingo. Or we could go open business B, and it might not be as profitable as business A. Hell, it might even lose some money, but I was going to have to write that tax check for business A anyway. So if I can write a smaller tax check and actually have a little fun instead of just writing a check and giving it all away, that might not be the worst idea ever, right?
Absolutely. And when you look at the complete stories we're going to get in the months to come, it was such a minute amount in the grand scheme of things. But yes, so Bob saw an opportunity. I'm so grateful he did. A lot of people, what if, I often thought, because we had several conversations with the Don King family and what if that just so many different things. But Bob really took that leap, and it goes without saying, his daughter could be into equity in the entertainment business. So Bob, brilliant, great heart of a man. And I often have thought in that meeting, what role did the Titan deal? Because he was enamored by it. Hell, we're talking about it to this day.
Yeah.
Because watch it, because we had it. Oh, I'm leaving that out too. We had video clip of that as well that we played on the screen. We turned the lights off and said, hey, here's a highlight reel of Toby. Here's a highlight reel of Hermie actually having a match. Yeah. Oh,
you had a sizzle reel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So all that being said, it goes into a fascinating jumping off point for Panda to get into the sports entertainment industry, so to speak.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.